You can spend all the money you want on your hair, it's just a waste. Scarlett, my mother-in-law, held me down against my will and forcibly chopped off my hair. Scarlett, who always bullied me, had done many terrible things to me, but this act was unforgivable. How much I had cherished my hair until now. Having my precious hair chopped off by her, I decided I couldn't live with Scarlett anymore and returned to my parents' house. 3 days after returning home, my husband called. When I answered, he was furious.
How long are you going to stay at your parents' place? It's your fault Mom got hit by a car.
I couldn't see how my being at my parents' house had anything to do with it, but I went to the hospital where Scarlett had been taken, as he said.
You left to stay at your parents' house without doing anything at home. Because of that, Mom had to go shopping, and on the way, she got hit by a car, and now she's paralyzed from the waist down.
And so, what does this have to do with me?
It does. You should take care of Mom.
What? No way. That's impossible. Absolutely not.
Then it's divorce.
I had been waiting for those words. I had been mutilated by Scarlett, having my pride and joy, my hair chopped off. To think I would agree to care for her with a simple, okay, I understand, that's not possible. Fine, let's get divorced then. My husband seemed not to have expected me to agree to a divorce. He was surprised. They made my life miserable so they can just live together happily ever after. 2 years ago, I married Anthony, who was a colleague at a major automobile manufacturer. After getting married, I quit my job and started working part-time at a nearby drugstore. We want children someday, but haven't had any yet due to my infertility.
Amelia, don't rush. It will happen someday.
Whenever I got depressed about not being able to have children, my husband always comforted me with kind words. He's busy with work and comes home late every day. I handle all the household chores while balancing my part-time job, which is quite challenging. But I felt truly happy having married a kind man. One day, half a year into our marriage, my husband and I both had a day off, and we're preparing to go shopping together when his phone rang.
What? Dad?
He turned pale as he answered the call. What happened?
Dad, he's dead.
I never imagined his always energetic father would die. We rushed to the hospital where his father had been taken. Why? Why so suddenly? In the hospital room, Scarlett was crying and clinging to her husband. The shock was unimaginable. His father died of a sudden heart attack. It seems Scarlett found him already passed away at home. Since his death, Scarlett has lost her spirit and she seems distracted even when my husband calls her.
You know, leaving Mom alone like this is a bit dangerous.
Yeah, she seems really distressed.
If you're okay with it, Amelia, can you live with Mom at your parents' house? If we all live together, Mom might cheer up.
I agreed to my husband's suggestion. Fortunately, we hadn't bought a house yet and we're living in an apartment, so moving was easy. As his son's wife, I wanted to do something for her if living together could help Scarlett regain her spirits. So 1 month after father-in-law's death, we moved to the in-laws' house, but I never imagined that this decision would lead to such a terrible outcome. The day after we started living with Scarlett at the in-laws' house, I was awakened by her yelling, "Are you still sleeping? Get up and prepare breakfast." Is it that late already? Groggy, I checked the clock on my pillow and it was still 6 a.m. Scarlett, it's only 6 a.m. What are you talking about so leisurely? It's normal for a wife to wake up before 5 a.m., clean the house, and prepare breakfast. I was being forced to accept Scarlett's values? Reluctantly, I decided to prepare breakfast as she demanded. Even while I was making breakfast in the kitchen, Scarlett's snide commands didn't stop. Don't be lazy just because you don't have children. You have it easy without kids. Scarlett kept insisting to me that life must be easy without children even before living together. She used to say, "I want to see my grandchild soon." She seems displeased that I haven't been able to conceive. Well, it's a blessing that's not easy to come by. It's not your fault for being infertile. If you're so slack, hurry up and get fertility treatment and have a child. Being unable to have a child, you're such a failure. I couldn't help but argue back with Scarlett. This led to her starting to bully me from that day on. Can't you even do something this simple? You think this is clean? Piling up laundry like this? Why did you do it more often? Scarlett started to complain about everything I did. Juggling part-time work and household chores, I might not have been perfect, but I'm not free enough to do everything flawlessly. A week after bullying started, mentally exhausted, I talked to my husband about Scarlett when he returned home from a company drinking party. Hey, Scarlett has been complaining about everything I do lately.
What? Household chores are the wife's job, right? Mom used to do it all without complaining.
That might be true, but it's impossible to be perfect. I also have a part-time job.
Stop making excuses. Is that all you want to talk about? I'm going to bed.
My husband didn't take me seriously. Without the support of my husband, who I thought was my only ally, I had no choice but to endure Scarlett's bullying. Taking my silence as a sign of weakness, Scarlett's bullying escalated. One day after finishing cleaning up breakfast and returning to my room, I found Scarlett rummaging through my closet. Scarlett, what are you doing? You only have such plain underwear? Scarlett was holding my underwear in both hands. Hey, don't go through my things without permission. Dressing so unattractively, no wonder Anthony doesn't pay attention to you. Wear something that catches his eye a bit more. When will I get to see my grandchild? It didn't need to be said. Every time, it comes down to wanting to see your grandchild. I want children too. I'm even undergoing fertility treatments, wishing for a child if I can. Without knowing how I feel, Scarlett relentlessly threw harsh words at me. I stood there, unable to say anything back to Scarlett. A week later, that day, my husband was out for a business golf outing, and only Scarlett and I were at the in-laws' house. As usual, I woke up early to make breakfast, cleaned up, and started doing house chores, but Scarlett seemed in a bad mood. While I was cleaning the living room, Scarlett sat on the sofa constantly fidgeting. Why are you fidgeting like that? I was so curious I had to ask Scarlett. Your shampoo seems to be quite expensive. Oh, I've always taken good care of my hair. I've always been confident about my hair since I was young. Since childhood, I have received many compliments about my long, straight hair and put a lot of effort into its care. Why spend money on your hair? Why not spend more money on fertility treatment? I am undergoing fertility treatments and the shampoo is paid for with my part-time job earnings. As I said this, Scarlett laughed ominously. She stood up, came over to me, and grabbed my hair fiercely. It hurts. Please stop. Scarlett started cutting my hair with the scissors she held. It's your fault for having such long hair. After Scarlett cut my hair for a while, I realized it was as short as a man's. Tears streaming, I stood there in shock as Scarlett, with a malicious smile, returned to her room. My pride, my beautiful hair, was gone in an instant. All the effort I put into it for nothing? I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't live with someone like her any longer. So I messaged my husband and going back to my parents' house for a while and left the in-laws' house in a hurry. I will never forgive Scarlett. On the way back to my parents' house, I was filled with intense hatred towards Scarlett. 3 days later, my husband called in the middle of a weekday.
Hey, how long are you going to stay at your parents'? Come back here soon.
He hadn't contacted me since I left, and now this? I'm not coming back. Scarlett cut my hair, which I cherished. I don't want to see her face, and I plan to stay away for a while. When I firmly told my husband I didn't want to return, he suddenly became furious.
Your hair doesn't matter.
His sudden loud voice made me pull the phone away from my ear. What's wrong with you?
Mom had an accident. Come back quickly.
Though I didn't want to see Scarlett, upon hearing she had an accident, I decided to go to the hospital. After about an hour, I arrived at the hospital and entered the room to find Scarlett lying in bed with a breathing machine.
What have you been doing all this time?
My husband, noticing me, was very heated and started berating me.
It's your fault. Mom had to go shopping and got hit by a car. If you hadn't gone back to your parents' house, this wouldn't have happened.
How unreasonable. What does Scarlett getting hit by a car have to do with me? I wanted to retort, but seeing Scarlett's terrible condition, I couldn't say anything back. It must have been a major surgery. Her body was wrapped in gauze and there were abrasions everywhere.
Excuse me, are you family?
A doctor entered the room, probably to explain Scarlett's condition.
Scarlett has severely damaged her lower body. There is a possibility of paralysis. If the nerves are damaged, I'm afraid complete recovery is unlikely.
Is there nothing that can be done?
Unfortunately, there is nothing more we can do.
My husband, hearing this from the doctor, collapsed to the ground, head in hands. About 30 minutes later, Scarlett woke up. Why am I in the hospital?
Mom, thank goodness you're awake. You were hit by a car and brought here. More importantly, can you move your legs?
I can't move them. Why? It seems that, as the doctor said, Scarlett lost a sensation in her lower body. Seeing Scarlett's condition, my husband yelled at me again.
It's all your fault. You have to take care of Mom now.
Wait a minute. Why should I be the one to take care of her? Sure, it's sad that she had a terrible accident and is now paralyzed, but I have suffered so much at Scarlett's hands. What? Absolutely not.
How heartless can you be? Scarlett is in such a terrible state and you won't even care for her? If you won't, then let's get a divorce.
He thinks by mentioning divorce, I'll just obey him? For me, it's a welcome suggestion. In fact, I was waiting for it. Sure, I have no problem with getting divorced.
What?
The moment I agreed to the divorce, my husband was shocked. He probably never thought I would actually go through with it.
But you only work part-time, right? You don't earn much. Can you survive?
True, I work part-time and my lifestyle will go down a bit, but I have savings and can manage for a while. I stood firm against my husband. Even if life becomes a bit harder, it's better than living with my husband and Scarlett.
Really? Don't come back regretting.
Regret? No way. It's better to live alone than with a wife abusing Scarlett and a husband who never listens to anything I say. Saying that, I pulled out divorce papers from my bag. I had taken them when I left the in-laws' house. Sign quickly before you change your mind. My husband, prompted by me, signed the divorce papers. As he threw the completed papers at me, he said,
Here, suffer through a hard life.
You too. Live well together. I was about to leave the hospital room but remembered I had something to say to Scarlett. Oh, right, Scarlett, you cut my hair without my permission, remember? I'll never forgive you for that. After conveying that to Scarlett, I submitted the divorce papers. On my way to the in-laws' house to get my things, memories with my husband came flooding back, but in the end, he probably only ever cared about himself. To him, I must have been nothing more than a convenient housekeeper. When I called my parents to inform them of the divorce, they warmly told me to come back home. They said they would support me financially until I found a job. A month later, back at my parents' house, while continuing my part-time work, I decided I couldn't rely on them forever and started job hunting. Fortunately, with my bookkeeping qualifications, I was hired by a small construction company nearby and managed to find a job. The income isn't much, but it's enough to live on. I can make it work. As I was enjoying my new life one day, my ex-husband suddenly came to my parents' house.
Amelia, please open up.
I was frightened by my ex-husband who was shouting loudly through the doorbell. My parents were out that day and I was the only one home since I had the day off. Of course, he didn't know I was off work. Frightened by his sudden visit, I decided to talk to him. What do you want now? Go back.
Please, come back home.
What? No way. We're divorced. Why should I come back?
Don't say that. Taking care of Mom is easier than part-time work, right?
How selfish can this man be? Thinking taking care of Scarlett is easier than part-time work? No way. Working part-time is much better. Who wants to take care of Scarlett? Is that all? Just go back. I tried to send him away quickly, but my ex-husband wouldn't leave. Instead, he kept shouting at the entrance. This is becoming a nuisance to the neighbors. Reluctantly, I opened the door and let my ex-husband in.
Please, just this once. If we don't remarry, can you visit Mom?
He was so persistent that I reluctantly agreed to visit the former in-laws' house. Upon arriving and entering the house, Scarlett's angry voice was immediately audible. Where have you been? Scarlett's grating voice made me feel miserable. I thought I would never come here again. Entering the living room, I was shocked by the scene before me. What is this situation? Sandwich containers scattered on the table and floor, half-drunk bottles rolled carelessly around. Scarlett's care must be challenging, impossible to do while working. What are you dulling for? I need to go to the bathroom. Help me now.
Mom, what about the helper? Didn't we arrange for one today?
I don't need such useless people. They can't do their jobs properly. Scarlett, now wheelchair-bound, had become even more difficult, lashing out even at her helper. That's why she's been refused by facilities. As my ex-husband mentioned, and I understood why. Hey, you! You'll do! Take me to the bathroom now. Scarlett noticed me and demanded help, but she's a stranger to me now. Why should I help? Are you referring to me? I have nothing to do with you now. Ask your son. Such an insolent girl! Scarlett, infuriated by my words, threw a nearby bottle at me. She tried to hit me but lost balance and fell from her wheelchair. It's your fault I ended up like this. Take responsibility. Scarlett glared at me from the floor, but I was no longer afraid. Responsibility? Why should I, who's no longer your daughter-in-law, take care of you? I haven't forgiven you for what you did.
Don't say that. I know it's shameful, but I can't manage daily life in this state. Please, let's start over.
Start over? Don't say that so lightly. I can't listen to you now. I managed housework while working part-time, so you can do it too.
I regret not helping with the housework and always siding with mom. Please, give me another chance.
My ex-husband begged and apologized deeply, but his actions didn't move me at all. My ex-husband kneeling and Scarlett lying on the floor, I spoke to them with contempt. No matter how much you apologize, I won't return to this house. Take care of Scarlett or reconsider things with Anthony. Really? Such a heartless wife. Don't you feel sorry for me? Scarlett still glared at me. She doesn't understand her position. Such an attitude is why no one wants to deal with her. Yeah, I don't feel sorry for you. It's your own responsibility. Now I'll be leaving.
Wait!
My ex-husband desperately tried to stop me from leaving. Fed up, I turned to him. If you keep following me, I'll call the police for stalking, and if you come to my parents' house again, I won't hesitate to report you. After saying that, my ex-husband fell silent. This should stop them from bothering me anymore. They are reaping what they sowed after treating me poorly. They should live together happily. Since then, my ex-husband hasn't unexpectedly visited my parents' house, and I have been living peacefully. I got used to my job and even found a new boyfriend. My private life was going great. One day, I received a message from my ex-husband.
It's been a while. I lost my job after that. I got tired from taking care of mom. I'm job hunting, but it's tough to find an employment, so I'm barely getting by with part-time work. Mom had to be hospitalized again, but she might be discharged due to bad reviews from the nurses. Sorry for sending such a sudden message. I really regret the trouble I caused you.
After reading the message, I deleted it. He probably thought appealing to my emotions might bring me back. To me, their situation feels almost refreshing. I have started a new life. I don't want any more involvement with them. I spent too much time for them, not myself. Now I'll use my time for my own happiness. If I ever marry my current boyfriend, I'll never live in the in-laws' house. I don't want to go through that again.